Hi everyone and welcome back to the extremely messy workbench here, and this is my Geissele Super Duty. So this is a Tokyo Marui MTR16 off the shelf. I'll put a picture of what they look like up in the top left hand corner up here. They look okay, but the great reason why the MTR16 is such a brilliant base to make a custom Tokyo Marui MWS is the fact that they do have laser etching, but it's just like a silver surface etch, which can be removed, and you can pop some like custom trademarks on there to do a custom build for whichever thing that you're building. Of course, I have a lot of Geissele stuff. I do like Geissele. I just like their sort of design and the way their aesthetics, how they look. I also get some great features from the MTR16 off the cuff, which is a ambidextrous bolt release, ambidextrous mag release, ambidextrous fire selector. So of course you're going to see a lot of real steel parts where I can get them fitted. The only thing really externally that's not real steel is this rail, but it's a Z parts rail, which is very expensive. It's about £200–300 for the rail. Not a cheap one at all. I've kept the standard MTR16 barrel, which does stick out a little bit. I have toyed with doing like a custom barrel and having the sort of the barrel finish right at the end of the rail here. But it just, as I put it together, it just kind of made sense. Now this, I must stress, is a DMR. It cannot shoot full auto, which I'll try. Let me see if this magazine's got any gas. I'll try and demonstrate here for you, just make sure it's clear. So we obviously have safe, we have fire, and we have where auto would be, but obviously you'll see it's blank. So this rifle can only fire semi-auto. There's no way that this rifle can fire fully automatic anymore. It's been permanently modified with these selectors. And let's get into the nitty-gritty of this thing. So it's an MTR16, as I've said before. The colour scheme for all the coating on the receiver is Magpul Stealth Grey. I'm obviously using a Magpul K2 Plus grip. The K2s have a bit more of a vertical drop to the MOEs, and the Plus just means they're like a rubber coated, so it's got a lot more of a grippier texture to it. I really do love the K2 Pluses. And a Magpul CTR stock in grey as well, of course. Where it's not been Cerakoted Magpul Stealth Grey, it's either been graphite black, which some of the parts are graphite black, or blackout, which is an elite coating, which you'll see on the barrel, and of course the bolt system there. So it's just got a bit of a sheen to it. They're meant to be a harder coating, they're elite series, but when you mix up the blackout, it just makes the parts look like steel, I think. So I do like it. The flash hider is in graphite black as well. So of course I've got the Geissele REBCG markings on the bolt there. Flipping it over, we've got Geissele Automatic Super Duty SD556. I've got a bit of a mark there because this rifle does get used at events. SD556 serial number, Geissele Automatic Safe and Fire. And then on the Z parts rail, it's got Geissele Automatics, the NSN number. And then we've got on the opposite side, sorry to keep flipping this over, the address there as well. So we have a stainless steel barrel here. The normal MTR16s have a barrel that comes to about here. This has been extended, so the inner barrel runs all the way to the end of the outer barrel. As well as that, I've got a dynamic precision high output valve in the nozzle. So that's what gives me the DMR limits. So on equivalent to the dual rating, obviously I run like 4s, but equivalent to a 2 is doing about 400, I think. When I'm using 0.4s, obviously I do get a little bit of dual creep, but it's normally within limits. depending on where I'm going. If I'm going to a field where this is just a little bit higher than what their limit is, I tend not to take it and I'll just take the shorty. If I split the upper here, let's pop the pin out. Oh, I did forget. I've also got a Geissele 5-axis trigger guard there. Let's split the upper receiver. The Z parts rail as well, honestly, it's I'm going to go as far to say that this is probably one of the best copy Mark 16 rails that you can buy from an airsoft company. You can see the dynamic precision high output valve in there. The bolt is, apart from that, is standard. I think I'm running a Guns Modify V3 nozzle, just because when I bought this MTR16, we had a friend of mine had a bunch of them over from Ireland, and all the nozzles have been chopped down so they wouldn't work. So I've got a Guns Modify in there. This is what came with the Mark 18, which I've nabbed for this build because it makes sense. Inside, we've got the Guns Modify hop-up unit, which is the CNC one. When I first started using this, it was absolutely rubbish, but I've managed to get it to work. And the hop rubber you'll see in there is a 70-degree MR hop from Maple Leaf. It seems to be working all right. I'll see how that goes. I can always swap them out. Inside the lower, we have a Bavtac titanium Z plate, probably the best Z plate you can buy, and we have a Guns Modify complete trigger internal package in the TM trigger box casing. The only part I couldn't fit out the Guns Modify bits was the hammer. For some reason I just could not get the hammer to work, so I've had to put the TM hammer in with those bits. But the plus side to this is the trigger. Obviously that there's no take up at all. Where that is where the brake is. And then of course the reset is right there. So a nice match style trigger for a DMR, because you're going to want that trigger to be really, really precise. On top of the upper here, I'm just running some PTS irons. These are what normally comes with the KWA rifles. I really like them for polymer sights. They're just really, really positive and stay in place. They adjust well. Not that I would ever use them, but I think it just complements the rifle and just fills the upper a little bit with the empty space. For the optic, I am running a you might have seen this in a previous video. I am running a Primary Arms ACSS 556-308 5.45 by 39 scope. Now this scope is absolutely brilliant because I can turn it all the way down to 1, which just gives me what looks like a red dot. I can see the end of my barrel, so I don't really have a need for like a doctor optic, like a red dot that sits on the side. Especially when you're canting airsoft rifles, the hop-up effect will normally shoot your BBs off to the left. So I can have the scope up, I can have it on 6 power, I can be sniping someone. However, if they're not in my minimum engagement distance, but too close for the 0.6, or if I just want a bit more, you know, sort of peripheral vision while using the optic, I can pop it down to 1. Of course, I can use this on other rifles as well. The mount is a Primary Arms one. This is just something that I ordered when I ordered the scope. The mount was about 30 quid for a real steel mount, and honestly, it's probably one of the best mounts compared to anything that comes out the airsoft industry that I've ever used. So it's just really nice on how that sets up. That dial on the side there does the illumination for the optic. If I take the caps off, they've got quick dials, so I don't need a tool or anything like that. They've got a really positive click on them because I hate having to carry some kind of tool to adjust those dials. What I will do, because I'm sure I'll get the question, let's pop that magazine back in. I just think it looks good with the GMP mags as well. The mount comes with these tools, and the whole reason I wanted to get this off is just so I could show you what this optic's like. So this will be hard to see. So it's probably not gonna, so you see it's obviously magnified there. Now if I turn this all the way down to 1, see how it's pretty much 1-to-1 there? I really do like this scope, and I can obviously turn the ACSS reticle on there. It's very, very good indeed. And the reason I picked this scope up is because someone was raving about it who does a lot of optic reviews. He goes by the name C_does on YouTube. I highly recommend checking him out. He does a lot of stuff on the Holosm, which is why I bought that. And this is a very good scope. You know, if you're used to buying, if you are used to buying airsoft branded scopes that sort of costing you £100, or like the Vision King stuff, that's fine. If you want something that is real steel quality, but not stupid real steel prices like in the thousands, then this is probably something that I would look at. I think the optic was about £360 off the top of my head. It might be cheaper or more expensive now, so you know, don't hold me to that price. But for what I paid for it, for the amount of money that's gone into this build, it really deserved a nice, some nice glass, because the last thing you want is for the gun to be very capable and have all these nice parts on and just fit the most Chinesium scope you can get your hands on. And I think the more I've delved, and look, I've had a lot of real steel optics over the years, but the more real steel optics and red dots that I use, the more I move away from anything airsoft branded, just because they really don't compare. So this is my Geissele Super Duty MWS DMR build. That's a hell of a mouthful, and I hope you enjoy it. I really do enjoy using this rifle. I don't tend to use it that much. I use it more at the weekend games. I think when the last weekend game I had, I did run into a bit of an issue with the hop. It wasn't keeping its zero. No, it's not zero. It wasn't keeping its setting, and it was winding off, which I think is why I switched to the GM hop unit, just to try and hold it a little better, because the spring that sits on that hop unit is a lot stronger. So yeah, I only tend to bring this out on weekend games just because the game scenarios normally allow for it. Otherwise, I'll just run my MWSs that are running at about dual, and I don't have to worry. This gun will put like 0.4s or 4.3s easily, without even trying, out to 70-80 meters with accuracy. And yeah, I really do love it to bits. So this is my custom Geissele Super Duty MWS. Hope you've enjoyed it, and I'll see you in the next video. Thanks for tuning in.